It was early 1944. The ground was frozen, the trees stripped of their leaves, and the Eastern Front lay under a blanket of bitter silence. Somewhere near the Latvian village of Malinava, two German Tiger I tanks sat hidden behind a tree line. Their engines were off. Their crews watched. Beyond the field ahead, columns of Soviet armor, IS-2 heavy tanks and T-34s, moved steadily, unaware they were being observed. Inside one of the Tigers sat Otto Carius, then a young but already highly decorated tank commander. What he and his fellow crewmen witnessed in the next 15 minutes would become one of the most talked about armored engagements of the war. Two Tigers versus over 20 Soviet tanks. And when the firing stopped, the tally was astonishing. 17 IS-2s and 5 T-34s knocked out, all in under a quarter of an hour. Was it luck, strategy, or the terrifying efficiency of the Tiger's 88mm gun? The story, as told by Carius himself, has fascinated military historians and readers for decades. If stories like these intrigue you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Many more historical investigations are on the way. Otto Carius was born on May 27, 1922, in Zweibrücken, Germany. He joined the Wehrmacht in 1940 and was assigned to panzer units, eventually becoming one of the most effective tank commanders of the war. Carius was not just a tactician. He was a careful observer, known for his composure under pressure and his ability to read terrain and enemy movement with precision. He first saw combat on the Eastern Front during Operation Barbarossa, and by 1943 had transferred to the Schwer Panzerabteilung 502, a heavy tank battalion equipped with the formidable Tiger I. By the time of the Malinava engagement, Carius was already a recipient of the Knight's Cross and had taken part in dozens of armored confrontations. Unlike many wartime memoirs, Carius's post-war accounts, particularly in his book Tigers in the Mud, are often noted for their technical precision and unembellished tone. He did not glorify war, but described it as it was: exhausting, terrifying, and full of chance. His detailed descriptions have become essential reading for students of armored warfare. The Malinava action was just one moment in a long and punishing campaign, but it came to symbolize the rare combination of experience, discipline, and favorable conditions that sometimes tip the odds in an otherwise brutal and uneven war. The events at Malinava took place in the summer of 1944, when the German front lines in the east were under immense pressure. The Soviet Red Army had launched Operation Bagration in late June, a massive offensive that shattered Army Group Center and pushed German forces westward across Belarus, Latvia, and Lithuania. Carius's unit, part of Schwer Panzerabteilung 502, was operating near the Latvian border in response to the rapid Soviet advance. On that morning, reconnaissance had revealed a Soviet armored column advancing toward Malinava, possibly unaware of the German presence nearby. Carius and another Tiger tank commander made the decision to ambush the Soviet force from a concealed position. The Tigers, with their powerful 88mm KWK-36 guns and thick armor, were ideally suited for such a strike. Stationed in defilade behind trees and brush, they had both cover and elevation. When the first IS-2s rolled into range, the Germans waited until the optimal moment. Then they opened fire. Carius reported that many of the Soviet tanks were hit before they could react. The Tiger's gun, especially at short to medium range, was capable of penetrating the frontal armor of the IS-2, one of the most feared tanks in the Soviet arsenal. Confusion spread quickly among the Soviet crews. Some T-34s attempted to maneuver or retreat, but the field offered little protection. According to Carius's account, within 15 minutes, the action was over. 17 IS-2s and 5 T-34s were destroyed, and the remaining Soviet units pulled back. The German Tigers suffered no losses in that engagement. While the exact numbers have been debated, and wartime reports should always be viewed with caution, even conservative estimates suggest that the effectiveness of the two Tigers in this encounter was extraordinary. The Malinava encounter, like many battlefield stories from the Eastern Front, has invited scrutiny. Historians have noted that such dramatic kill counts often reflect a combination of factors: advantageous terrain, surprise, crew experience, and even the fog of war. Some have questioned whether all the tanks destroyed were indeed IS-2s, or whether a portion were misidentified T-30s or other models. Others have pointed out that Soviet crews in 1944 were often young and undertrained due to the war's attrition, particularly in fast-moving offensives where logistical coordination was strained. Still, the technical matchup cannot be ignored. The Tiger I, despite its mechanical complexity and weight, was a formidable vehicle. When operated by experienced crews in defensive or ambush roles, it could dominate engagements even when outnumbered. Otto Carius never claimed personal glory. In interviews and writings, he stressed the unpredictability of war, the fear that even elite crews faced, and the thin line between tactical success and disaster. His descriptions of Malinava are factual, almost clinical. Yet the image of two tanks halting an armored assault endures as a striking symbol of both the Tiger's power and the chaos of the Eastern Front. The story of Otto Carius at Malinava is often repeated in discussions of World War II armored warfare. But beyond the numbers and battlefield mechanics, it invites a broader reflection on how such events are remembered, interpreted, and mythologized. Was it a masterclass in tactics, or an outlier shaped by timing and terrain? Was it proof of German engineering superiority, or simply a moment when experience, training, and circumstance aligned in the chaos of war? The truth likely lies somewhere in between. In war, clarity is rare, and moments of apparent triumph are often surrounded by loss and uncertainty. Carius himself never romanticized the encounter. He emphasized the burden of command, the strain on men inside metal hulls, and the unpredictability of survival. After the war, Otto Carius became a pharmacist and avoided the spotlight. His writings remained one of the most grounded and technically accurate records of armored warfare in the 20th century. He passed away in 2015, but his accounts remain a valuable resource not only for what they report, but for how they report it. In remembering stories like Malinavi, we also remember the people inside the machines. Their decisions, fears, and discipline shaped outcomes far more than any single weapon system. Whether two Tigers really halted an entire Soviet column is perhaps less important than what the story tells us about the realities of war. The mixture of fear and calculation, chaos and structure, memory and myth. The battlefield changes, but its echoes remain. When Otto Carius wrote about his experiences, he wasn't simply recording data or cataloging victories. He was confronting memory. Every shell fired, every command shouted through metal intercoms, every enemy silhouette caught in the scope. They all left marks. On the tanks, on the landscape, and on the minds of those who survived. Carius was candid about this weight. In his post-war reflections, he didn't glorify the Tiger tank as invincible. He spoke of its mechanical faults, its slow turret traverse, its vulnerability in open terrain. But he also emphasized that its real power lay not in steel, but in the mindset of the crew. Discipline, coordination, calm. These were the traits that made a tank like the Tiger more than just a weapon. They made it an instrument of decision in a world ruled by uncertainty. The engagement at Malinava, in that light, becomes more than just an ambush. It becomes a case study in how machinery, terrain, and human judgment intersect under pressure. Not every unit would have acted as swiftly. Not every commander would have had the nerve to hold fire until the precise moment. And not every crew would have walked away unscathed. Today, the image of a Tiger tank is often wrapped in myth. Models sit in museums. Digital reconstructions fill documentaries. But few of these capture the claustrophobic interior, the frost on the hatch handles, or the long seconds between sighting and firing. That's what Carius's account restores, a human context within a mechanical world. What we choose to remember and how we remember it defines our understanding of history. In Otto Carius's case, it wasn't only about the tanks he destroyed. It was about the limits of man and machine and what it means to act under the cold, unrelenting weight of war. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications so you never miss another journey into the lesser-known chapters of history.